Back in 2014, exactly 6 years ago, I had surgery on my vocal cords. And since I was not able to sing, and it was summertime, I had a chance to visit as many synagogues as I would have wanted. And I did take advantage of the occasion. I would confess that sometimes I chose to stay at home instead. It was then that I experienced a virtual service for the first time in my life. I connected to one synagogue first. Within minutes, I was connected with another synagogue and another one, and without realizing, I ended up connecting with 5 live streamings at the same time. It reminded me of the experience you have when you go to a Shabbat like in the Kotel, right? When you're on the Western Wall in Israel, in Jerusalem, and each group has its own minyan, and they all go at different pace, and they have all their own different melodies. But I have to be honest, I didn't feel connected at all, with any of these services. Then I concluded that I didn't feel connected at any of those congregations. I realized that I had no relationship with the prayer leaders, neither the clergy. However, due to the fact that I was muted and I couldn't speak post-surgery, allowed me to have a deeper and a stronger connection to my own self. Why did I share this story with you? As cantors and rabbis, we clergy have a few WhatsApp and email forums with colleagues all over the world that we belong to. We ask questions, post thoughts, ask for suggestions, and most of the time we get a collection of answers. Virtual services was the subject in discussion, this time in the forum, and a colleague pondered the question, quoting, "I was thinking about the online and virtual services, but not as prayer leaders, rather as receptors, as audience, as congregants. Have you put on the shoes of your members? Have you ever experienced virtual services yourself? What did you feel? What you were able to do, to accomplish? Were you able to pray? Did you take an active or a passive role while you were watching or listening? Were you active or were you passive?" So I want to share part of my answers I gave to the group. I first shared my experience back in 2014. I just shared with you. And then here are my recent experiences since the pandemic started. At times, for X or Y reasons, when I stay home on Fridays and listen and watch to our Beth to our virtual services, it connects me with my colleagues, Rabbi Roisman, Evelyn, Benny, and Ishmael, and of course our service. However, I don't feel I am praying, at least in a deeper sense of the world, which is a process of self-examination. I do not really examine myself. I am not active in the tefillah, in the prayer experience. I enjoy it though. I sing along at times, but I have to admit that it is a passive experience at times. But I have to admit not only that it's a passive experience for me, but it is a sense that I feel of being accompanied. I am accompanied by these soothing melodies of our beautiful Friday night services, the words from my dear Rabbi Roisman, and at times it feels like having background while dining, or even setting the Shabbos table, or even preparing the meal. It is there, but I am not actively listening and praying, and I'm not paying probably all the attention it should be. Yes, it is a pleasant moment at home with my wife. However, when the virtual service ends, ours begins at home around the white clothed table. I pick up my guitar and I start singing with my wife. We meditate, give thanks, talk about the past week, unwind our minds to set the new tone for Shabbat. There I am active and present, certainly connecting with my wife Marcela, the prayers, and Shabbat. We all have different opinions, feelings, and ideas of how things have to be or happened. Therefore, some of my colleagues are of the opinion that we should set a sacred space and time at home for any virtual service experience we have. Dressed properly, or at least be dressed, emulating something similar to shul and keeping a sacred decorum. I think it is a great idea, and we could all aim to achieve that goal. Have your own or our own Mishkan, our own sanctuary at home. I love the idea, I love it. But I understand it is not always possible. However, most of us were worried that the virtual services are becoming just passive experiences. I am actively cooking, running, walking the dog, talking to my spouse, answering an email, answering a text, reading the newspaper while having the service. While having the service, the melodies, the words of Torah as a pleasant background company, which incidentally made me think deeper and farther. This is how we often live our lives. We have the dog next to us, but we do not play with him or with her. But it is nice to have him next to us. Our children are around, but we don't play with them. Furthermore, we don't even know anything about them. We do not interact actively and not even talk to each other's partners. Yes, we might be watching Netflix together, we hold hands, feel each other's energy, but we don't actively interact. Not even a, how are you, honey? How are you feeling? How was your day? We accompany each other. I think we live in a world and a time where we lost the concept of being active and present, the now. We live from the past and at the same time fantasize about the future. We are transitioning to the now, but we are thinking in the meeting we will have in 20 minutes from now. So we cannot blame ourselves for not doing what we don't know how to do well. In other words, what we were never taught how to do. We are all a work in progress. It is a learning experience for all. And before talking about our congregants, I said in the group, we have to ask ourselves how we feel, how I feel. We are just doing what we learned to do, to be accompanied, to accompany others, which is the first step of achieving a real connection. So let's face it, we have a very hard time making real connections. We are all connected in social media, we are connected with quoted marks, with thousands of friends, and yet at times, more often than not, we feel empty inside. Why? If we are so connected and feel loved and accompanied from all around the globe, why is it that we still feel lonely? Because to learn how to connect and to get to know others requires first to connect and to get to know our own selves, who we really are. Have you realized that even when we are in the car alone, we need the noise, the music, the phone call, the texting? We need to feed ourselves with something because we just cannot conceive being just by ourselves. How many times do we actively spend time alone having an encounter, a date with yourself, a romantic spiritual date? Have you tried? I did, and I tried as often as I could. It is hard, but possible. And not only possible, it is a must to exercise the right to know ourselves, to know who we really are. To love someone means to connect to that person. To love God, as it is instructed in today's parasha, ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, you shall love your God with all your heart, with all your mind. We say it every day twice in the Shema. Means to connect with him or with her. To love oneself means to connect with yourself. So to love is to connect, and to love means to get to know that person as well. But unfortunately, we don't all say that we know ourselves. At times, we are afraid, we get nervous, we are antsy, and we don't know why. How much of our lives we live unconsciously and we react from the subconscious. We are antsy, nervous, and we feel even something, an emotion, and we don't know why. If we don't know ourselves, we can't love ourselves. Then we can't love others, our spouses, our children, our friends, our colleagues. Then we can't connect with ourselves. Then we can't connect with them. If you love yourself, you will be able to love anyone, any creature on earth. When you want to get to know someone, you need time to spend with that person, to get acquainted when you get a date, right, with your girlfriend, until you start getting, sometimes it might be a little fake because they might tell you things that you want them to know, but that doesn't mean actually they know themselves so well, so it's a chain. That's why it's so important to get to know yourself. Then we need to be with ourselves for a certain period of time. A fixed time. A private date with yourself. Okay, I will go to the movies by myself. I will go swimming. I will go and paint, compose, maybe I go to the manicure, maybe I give time to myself and with myself. But this is really accompanying your body and feels like you are spending time together, you and your body, but it is not the same as being with your own selves. If you want a time with yourself, then you need to shut off the entire world. That is what it means to be with yourself. The lack of that knowledge of who we are is what brings the lack of love. So we start hating ourselves, then we start hating others. Things don't go the way I want because I don't really know what's going on with me. We hate others. And then ultimately, the big disconnection happens. Our Hasidic masters, they call this exercise itbodedut, a seclusion. That means they recommend a minimum of an hour daily together with your own self. But I thought itbodedut was really seclusion to get to talk to God. But this isn't a way to connect with Hashem. Well, the truth will be revealed now, because it can change your lives. People usually go to counselors, to doctors, and all the answers are really within yourself. They're around the corner from your house. So I'll give you a list of how to exercise this itbodedut to get to know yourself. Shut off the world. That means your world, and our world today is our cell phones. So turn it off. Then you tell everyone that from 1 to 2 p.m. or any time that you choose, you're going to have an important meeting. So other people will know and they will not be looking for you. 3, find a place that you are in peace. 4, this is usually what happens. We are afraid at the first minutes. We need to spend relaxing our time, ourselves, calming our minds, unwinding. We have so much in there, so many questions, so much information we need to unwind. Taking it out of the stuff needs to get colder. It's like when you get boiler water, right? The water is boiling, and then you still need, until you can drink it, you need to get colder. So just stay still. Watch the sky. The color can clean. The color of the skies can clean and reset your mind. Bring peace. Calm down. So walk. Another exercise when you do this is to walk. 5. You will realize that when you are alone, just by yourself, you start realizing so much about who you are, about yourself, that you never thought before. You can have a lot of things that you never even realized before. You will realize how many blessings we have, the good things we have, the family, the prosperity, the health. And as long there is life, they say, you can always change something and improve. In the morning blessings, we usually say, Shasali kol tzorki, that fulfills me with all my needs. And in Pirkei Avot it says, who is happy? The one who is happy and comfortable with his portion. Asameach v'chelko. So to whom do we connect and get to know? It's not our bodies, it's our souls. So connecting to your neshama, to that divine spark of God, is what it allows you the time to know yourself more. And then, therefore, it allows you to get to know the part that you have inside you of God. So it allows you to know God. So you get to know yourself, you get to know God, you get to love yourself, then you can you can love God once you really approach and achieved the first step. So connection equals love, then you can connect with the rest of the puzzle, the rest of the world, the other pieces of the creation. To be able to connect, you need also to listen, to be a good listener. So you need to be able to listen to your inner voice first, and then to connect with others, to be able to listen to their voices, know what you want to hear they are telling you. So I invite us to rethink who we are, to get to know ourselves better, take advantage of this big challenge in this period of time of the pandemic of COVID, to grow, to reevaluate ourselves, to connect first with ourselves, then with your families, then with our friends, and then with each other. This is a great moment in our lives to rethink the concept of the word connection and the word relationship. So when we can go back one day, face to face, to experience these services together, our connections with our clergy, with our fellow members, with our colleagues, will become a real connection. Therefore, a true love, echad, as they say in the Shema, oneness. I will finish with a story. The great sage Joseph Bloch once wrote a beautiful allegory. A man was getting ready to go to America from the Middle East. In those days, the journey took several months by sea, and the ship was scheduled to stop in France for 2 weeks to load food, and that would last for the rest of the journey. Since the man knew he would be stopping in France, he decided to learn French before departing on the trip. By the time the ship sailed, he had indeed managed to learn French, but he didn't have time to learn English, the language of his final destination. When the ship reached France, the man disembarked and enjoyed every minute of his stay in France, and knowing the French language helped him immensely. Then after 2 weeks, he returned to the ship to continue his trip to America. When he arrived in America, he again tried to speak French, but no one could understand him. The Americans told him, "You are a fool. You were in France for only 2 weeks, but the rest of your life, you are going to be in America. So you went and learned French instead of learning English, which is the language you'll need for your whole life. You're a fool." So this is the allegory that we can apply to our lives as a whole. Our existence here in this physical world is analogous to the man's visit to France. We stay here only a little while, and yet we work hard to learn the language. But the language that we really need to know is the desire to receive for the sake of sharing, is the language of to know who we are. By learning this language, the spiritual language, to understand who we are, why things happen to me, and when I feel an emotion, how I feel and why I feel this way, to learn the language of my soul, that's what will merit one day, hopefully, to bring and to face Mashiach, to bring the Messiah one day, or the Messianic era, and to see the building of our own sanctuaries, our own Mishkan, our own temples, in our own days. Shabbat Shalom.